Today I would like to talk about Xbox Series X specs, because it looks like we finally have got a game that is taking full advantage of Xbox Series X raw computational power. Let's look into this. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So let's talk about Xbox Series X, its specs, some next-gen features, next-gen engines, next-gen games. I want to focus on Alan Wake 2 for the most part, but I'll be talking about other games too. Okay, so Alan Wake 2 is out. Fantastic game, by the way. If you haven't played that game, you really must. That's it, right? Fantastic game. But today I want to focus on tech side of things. So there's a Digital Foundry video showing quite a bit of a difference when it comes to performance in this game between Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5. By the way, Xbox Series S is very well optimized, 30 frames per second, a good image quality and graphics. But let's focus on Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5. So there's two modes, quality mode and performance mode. Quality mode, Xbox Series X is pretty much like locked to 30 frames per second. PlayStation 5 drops down to like 27 frames per second. In this area, I think this is one of the more demanding kind of locations in this game, and that shows in both quality and performance mode. So PlayStation 5 in this location drops down to like 27 frames per second. It's not like all the way through this location, but it dips down to 27, right? It's still mainly 30. Now, performance mode is actually interesting, because it looks like PlayStation 5 drops performance down to like 50, sometimes 48.9 frames per second, right? You will find that all in Digital Foundry video. Now, obviously, we're talking about drops. The game runs 60 frames per second for the most part, but there's also long periods of times where the game will run at 55, 56, 53 frames per second, right? So that's not necessarily a good look, really. Now, the interesting thing about this game is they don't use dynamic resolution scaling, which could potentially help PlayStation 5 to run this game better, but at lower image quality. But yeah, it is what it is. They don't use that, at least not right now. Maybe they will introduce it later. So I think this is one of the first games, if not the first game, that is actually showing a big difference between PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X when it comes to Xbox having an advantage, because there were some big games in the past that PlayStation 5 would run much better. Unfortunately, you know, bad tools and all that kind of stuff on Xbox, unfortunately. Either way, like this time around, looks like the actual extra power that Xbox Series X comes with actually comes in handy. And I know that some people will say, oh, it's mesh shaders, MaDz, it's mesh shaders. And I know that mesh shaders actually plays a crucial role in delivering good performance, because we've seen how this game runs without mesh shaders on PC. Massive difference. Not like, you know, we're talking about like literally 20, 30 frames per second sometimes on some GPUs difference. But you guys really need to remember that PlayStation 5 has its own tech, and they use primitive shaders. They've got their own API, so they don't necessarily need mesh shaders, right? Now, we can have a debate whether mesh shaders are more flexible, more programmable, yara, right? I mean, but let's leave it for another video. Right now, let's just assume that mesh shaders, primitive shaders, DirectX 12 and PlayStation 5 APIs, is kind of similar, right? It does pretty well. So that's very important, because like I don't want this video to be focused on mesh shaders per se, but it looks like the quite significant performance advantage that Xbox Series X has in this game comes from the extra power, and that's at least that's what Alex Battaglia believes, because he says this: good to see the raw compute of Xbox Series X be meaningful, really stable 60, while PlayStation 5 can be like 49 frames per second at the same moment. I always imagined as compute becomes more important over time versus pixel shading or otherwise. We saw that a good deal with GCN versus Pascal, Maxwell. And the last bit he's talking about here is that because I'm sure that most people won't know, he's mentioning GCN versus Pascal Maxwell. It's basically these are PC technologies. I mean, GCN is in consoles, was in like PlayStation 4, of course, and Xbox One. But Pascal is only on PC. And basically what he's referring to is the fact that AMD's GPUs based on GCN architecture at first they were not really that great when it comes to performance, but they did age well because they had more compute power, right? They were more powerful GPUs, but they were not necessarily better running games because NVIDIA GPUs were better optimized at first. But then once the game started using more compute power, well, these AMD cards started becoming more and more capable in these games, in these new games using more compute, right? So that's what he's referring to here. Also, that he basically saying that it's a similar situation where PlayStation 5 at first were they came with better tools, better API, apparently more developer friendly tools. But everything when it comes to game engines were still kind of optimized for PlayStation and having 40 compute units and everything. So most of these game engines would not even take advantage of extra compute units on Xbox Series X. Boxenberger actually was talking about it quite a bit back in the days. So kudos to him for actually pointing this out like a year, 2 years ago, really. But now we actually starting seeing next gen games, and there's even like early Unreal Engine games. They seem to be doing quite okay on Xbox versus PlayStation 5, right? So I mean, these early games are still not fully optimized and everything, but when you've got a game like Alan Wake 2 that is actually taking it's a proper next gen game optimized for next gen features and stuff, and we actually seeing results, right? Like you see this game running on Xbox Series X much better because of that GPU power advantage, right? Now, obviously, the question really now is, will that translate in better running games in the future too? I would imagine so, but you know what? I said some stuff in the past that I was pretty sure about, and I was wrong because there's always some external factor that we can not always be aware of. So I won't really say for sure, but there is a pretty strong case that in the future, once we get more and more proper next gen games using next gen features, next gen engines, we may actually see more of advantage, that power advantage in Xbox Series X versions of games. But hey, at the end of the day, that old saying still stands that it's all depends on developers, right? If developers are going to be willing to sacrifice, to put more effort or time in optimizing and stuff, so we will actually see results. But I bet that there's still going to be some developers that won't really care, right? So I'm actually looking forward to seeing more and more games coming in the future, like these proper next gen games. I can't wait to see what Xbox Series X is really capable of in these proper, well optimized games. And yeah, exciting times ahead of us. But guys, don't forget that PlayStation 5 Pro is coming too. So, you know, stuff is going to get even more exciting probably next year. Not only we will get these games taking advantage of these extra compute units, but yeah, new console, more powerful console. Yeah, it's going to be interesting for sure for everyone. So anyway, guys, that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about it. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care.